Hi, I'm Mike Suyderhoud.
And I'm Bob LaPoint.
What you just seen was Bob LaPoint running the slalom course at a very short line length. But in this videotape, we're going to teach you the same basics that it takes for Bob LaPoint to run runs like 35 off.
The next 30 minutes, we're going to give you everything you need to know about slalom skiing, from technique to course strategy, even some training tips.
We'll start you out from the basic positioning to cutting from side to side and learning how to turn. And then, hopefully, you'll be able to try the slalom course.
And by the end of the tape, you'll have enough information that there's no reason why you won't make it yourself.
In this tape, we're going to teach you the basics of slalom skiing, all the way from starting off with the cuts to eventually running the slalom course.
Right, and it doesn't really matter if you have a goal of running the course, that's great. But I think anybody that's been around slalom courses, seen it, has, got an idea, boy, I'd really like to do that. And the key here is that whether you're in the course or just free skiing, it's technique. Using that proper technique will help your skiing, both course level and open skiing level, and it'll make it a lot more enjoyable.
We're going to take you on a logical progression of your technique, so that as you learn new techniques, you'll also start leaning more, cutting a little bit faster, and skiing a little bit wider of the wake. The idea is to do it step by step and to learn each step properly so you can develop your good habits and improve upon them. In this tape, we want to get you to run the slalom course at speeds of approximately 30 miles an hour. In our next tape, we want to take you beyond that range and get you into the ultimate short line in the step-by-step, line-off by line-off process. The ultimate being runs of 38 and 39 and a half off. We're going to first teach you the basic static riding straight type of body position, and then we're going to get you to start cutting from side to side and accelerating your ski speed as opposed to that of the boat.
And the body position is probably the number one important thing to get right. Without that, you're really not going to get anywhere. You're just going to be held back. Maintain a proper position is going to help you get through each step.
Right, and then as your speed increases, as your cutting speed increases, other forces start to act upon you. Like the boat wants to pull you out of your lean, it wants to affect your turn so that you don't turn as well, and we'll be discussing those forces as well. Your initial leans are going to start very close to the wake, and they're going to involve small S-turns. And as you begin to improve, your S-turns will carry you wider and wider as your lean increases. Then you'll learn more about the forces that are against you at the greater speeds and leans, as well as what an edge change is and how it affects where your ski turns are going to be with relation to the width of the boat. Also, you will be able to shadow the buoys eventually, the slalom course buoys, and then hopefully start going around a few of the buoys. Then, once all that works for you, you'll be able to go through the gates and around all 6 buoys and out the exit gates.
And Mike, I think the key there is body position. That's probably the most important thing, no matter what level you're at, is to maintain proper body position.
In a tape that Bob and I did about 7 or 8 years ago, we taught you about the edge change, pre-turn, turn, and the cut, like they were all sort of separate movements. But now we're going more into the fluid type of skiing. Can you explain that, Bob?
What it is, basically, is it's 2 turns. You're constantly turning, and it's divided by an edge change. That's what it comes down to. Even though it looks like someone's going straight across the wake, they're actually trying to keep the ski turning all the way until they're ready to make that edge change and make the next turn. So it's really just a fluid combination of putting back-to-back turns together, S-turns.
I've had students at my school that have been very aggressive skiers that have a very difficult time grasping the concept of skiing smooth and to allow the technique to work for you. They'd like to force things and create pulls. And once they get, though, to the point where it starts to feel smooth and things come together, they begin to feel guilty, like they're not working hard enough. And I tell them feeling guilty in slalom is good for you.
Yeah, that's a good sign. That means he's doing it right. It's just like anything else. If you do it right, usually it not only looks easy, but it feels easy. And I think the key there is be smooth. A lot of people think they'll put too much emphasis on making that hard turn right off, right at the first, and then going, like you say, flat and straight. But being fluid, being smooth is going to make things a lot easier. It's almost like I say to people, you should be able to almost put something on top of your head and have so little body movement while you're doing all this and be so fluid. And that's what makes it feel easy.
So in other words, we're going to work hard. We're going to work hard at skiing smooth. Basic static body position is the first thing you need to master. The reason is that's the building block for your body position on your cuts and your edge changes. So let's discuss what happens to you. First of all, you have a pull that is exerted on you from the boat that matches the friction on the bottom of your ski. So you have to resist that boat's pull in a static position. Could you explain that position to us, Bob?
Yeah, Mike, main thing you want to be is you have to be very comfortable. You want to be relaxed in the lower part of the body and use your upper body to maintain that resistance. The boat's pulling you, trying to pull you forward. You need to resist by keeping your upper body up, which will actually move your hips forward. A lot of people will say, you've heard this before over and over, get your hips up. It's really not a matter of getting your hips up. It's a matter of getting your upper body, your shoulders up, your chest up, and that will actually force your hips into the handle and put the load, the biggest load on your upper body.
Right, so in other words, we're trying to get you to keep very good posture while there is pull exerted against you. So that obviously the part of your body taking the pull goes through your arms and gets taken against your body at your shoulders and your upper back. So that's the part of your body you need to resist that pull with.
Right. The biggest mistake people make, I think, is they let the shoulders come forward, they droop, let's say, or their arms come out instead of being at the sides, they come forward. And what that does is it puts a lot of strain on the lower back. That's probably the number one mistake that people make, and number one, it hurts. It shortens the amount of time you can spend on the water, and you don't get the full benefit, especially once you do start cutting. You do not get the power.
And one of the ways we like to stress good body position is to tell you to pinch your shoulder blades together and sort of shrug your shoulders so that the pull does not let them get ahead of you. You notice what that does too, it allows your arms to stay along the side of your body. If you let them go a little bit weak up here, your upper arms will start going slightly toward the front of your body. So when you tighten your shoulder blades and shrug your shoulders and keep these muscles very tense upstairs, then your arms will actually be along your side like you see the better skiers ski.
Right, and then what's happening is your whole body is taking the load. You're getting what we call full leverage. When you apply that to a lean, you'll get the full advantage of your whole body against the rope.
Okay, and then the lower body, you said to keep it very relaxed, Bob. How should you stand on your skis? Should you put a little more weight on the back, or do you like to put weight even or more in the front?
What I think I stress is basically even distribution between both feet with knees both flexed. When I say flex, I don't mean tight and flex. I just mean, relaxed but bent slightly and try and keep them in close together.
Let's freeze this frame and analyze the body position. First of all, I'm skiing here. Look down the rope and follow the line and look at the arms. It looks like they are just right in line with the rope, and you have to consider your arms as an extension of the line, allowing the pull to get transferred to your upper body, in this case, your shoulders where your arms attach. So what you need to do is really keep the shoulders and the upper back very tight so the pull of the boat does not make them go forward or make them convex your chest. You need to keep your chest out, shoulders very strong to withstand all the boat pull. And then you want to keep your upper body straight, not bending at the waist, and allow your knees to bend forward and relax somewhat so they're not very tense. And let the knees touch together and feel the weight evenly distributed over both feet. Now let's take a look at how to grip the handle. Notice that we're holding a baseball grip on the handle. Whether your left hand is up or down, it should be the most comfortable baseball grip to you. That's important. You have a much stronger slalom position that way. Also, let the handle sit in the palm of your hand just below your finger knuckles, and don't try to squeeze it too tight. Just make a hook out of your hands. That way you can relax your forearms more and let your arms go straighter so the pull gets transferred up to your shoulders much more easily. The fun part begins when you can start to edge from side to side on your slalom ski. Let's face it, the reason you're on a slalom ski in the first place is so you can start edging from side to side and start making some turns that sort of impress your friends. Now, the important thing about edging, again, is to understand the body position and what forces come on you when you start to edge.
Yeah, basically when you're going straight ahead, you're on a flat ski. And anytime you get more weight on one side or the other by leaning, if you want to go to the right, you lean to the right. If you want to go left, you lean to the left. What happens is the ski goes on edge, and the ski is naturally designed that when it is put on edge, it will cut that way, and that's basically what we call edging.
Bob, I've used the example to people of going down a hill on a bicycle. Let's say you're going down about 15 or 20 miles an hour, and you want to slalom from side to side. What do you do on a bicycle? Everybody can figure it out. You just lean in the direction you want to go, and that's the way your bicycle is going to go. Yet on the water, people are confused about that. They have more of a tendency at times to try to help their ski get in angle. They say, well, I want to go to the right now, so I'm going to push on my back foot and force the ski tip to the right, so that way my ski is going to go over there. And that's a real common problem, don't you think?
Yeah, it is, because what happens is weight immediately goes to the back of the ski. And the more weight you apply to the back of the ski, the more it wants to resist what you're doing. Try to keep a fairly even distribution on both feet. That's when the ski works best. When you got a nice flat attitude, as level as possible in the water, you put that ski on edge, it's going to react quicker.
Some of the problems that I found with skiers is there's a percentage of lean which they do correctly. They realize they have to lean in the direction that they want to go, but a lot of skiers start leaning towards their back some as well. And I feel that if you have 70% of your lean towards your side and 30% towards your back, there's a lot of work you need to do to correct your form. I believe that all the lean should be towards your side and towards your down shoulder.
Yeah, I always tell people lean away from the boat, but that's maybe a little misleading, because if you're turned properly, if you're edging, let's say, to the left, your shoulders will be turned that way. So when I say lean away, that means this way, which is into that shoulder. So the more turned you are, in other words, the more angle you have, the more you will lean into that shoulder.
And the more you lean away from the boat then.
Exactly.
So the idea is to lean towards your down shoulder, and as the ski comes around, that shoulder will become the shoulder that's away from the boat.
That's right.
You notice that it's important to keep your upper body the same position like you have when you're skiing behind the boat. Let's stop this picture and look at it. Okay, you can see the knees are bent forward, the ski's riding very flat on the water. Then the hips are right underneath the shoulders where they should be. The upper body and the back is straight, and you can look through the rope at the arms. You can see that the arms are in the same direction as the rope is going. That way the pull is right on your shoulders. And then notice where I'm leaning. That's towards the tip of my left shoulder. That's the side you want to lean to when you go to the left. Just like riding a bicycle. Let's continue this. When you go down a hill on a bicycle, you want to turn the bicycle to the left, you lean towards the left. When you want to go to the right, you lean towards the right. Now I don't want to go to the left anymore, I want to go to the right. So I begin leaning towards the right-hand side. As you can see, the ski begins to arc towards the right-hand side and then starts to head in that direction. Just like the bicycle going down the hill would. Arms straight, knees bent, same degree of lean to the right. Let's stop it right here. Again, you can see that I am leaned towards the tip of my right shoulder. I want to go right, so I have to lean towards the right side of my body. You notice the other thing, that the head is level and the eyes will be looking straight out ahead, not at any one specific object. Don't stare at the wake, for instance, when you're in this position. Let's continue on. The wake will actually come through your peripheral vision, and you don't need to stare at it to know exactly where it is and where you are in relation to it. Let's talk about crossing the wake. Okay, that's a problem that many average skiers have, and rightfully so. You know, some boats have bigger wakes than other boats, and there's a lot of rope pull that occurs to you when you get to the wake. Plus, usually in the cutting stage, you've been accelerating for a while getting to the wake, and you're hitting it a lot faster than you would if at the first part of your turn.
Speed always has a lot of effect on people. I think the fear factor comes in a little bit. As soon as they get going fast, they see this wake, they tend to want to, flatten out to get through it, which is probably the worst thing you can do.
Okay, so we're leaning towards the down shoulder, and now let's say we got a skier who's leaning towards the down shoulder and starting to pick up more speed, yet a lot of them get a little bit afraid. They get to the wake and something happens. What kind of things happen to people when they go across the wake?
I think two things happen. Number one, there's a little bit of a fear factor because of the wake. Now the other thing that probably hasn't been talked about much, but which you and I think have talked about ourselves a lot, is this twisting force. In other words, as you're applying lean towards the wake, the boat's helping you pull like you were talking about. And as you get across the wake, it's trying to open you up. So it's really important to keep that down shoulder. If you're going left to right, keep the lean against the right shoulder and resist that force of it trying to pull you open.
Okay, that twisting force can be equated to like a pendulum, which is hanging straight down. If the stable spot for the pendulum is right below this hinge. So if you were to drop it, gravity helps it to come down and prevents it from going up so much on the other side. A slalom skier who is outside of the wake and goes flat and just relaxes will get pulled back into the boat wakes. And that's what that twisting force does. It helps you to come into the boat wakes, yet once you get to the wakes and you get beyond the boat wakes, it begins to work against you. And now it says, I don't want you to go out to the side. I want you right back behind the boat. So that twisting force is a real strong force, like Bob says. It begins to open your body up and take your ski out of its angle. And that, of course, is not what you want. You want that ski to be able to swing out wide to the other side, so eventually you can run that slalom course. Now, as you get this wide, it is also important to recognize some of the forces that start coming on you. One that we call the twisting force. Let's stop it right here. What happens when you're in this area, from the apex to the wake, you have what's like a pendulum force wants to help you get to the wake. If you held a pendulum, gravity will help it swing to the bottom. And that's what's happening. If you did nothing outside of the boat wake and stood flat, where would you go? That's right, you go right back to the middle of the boat wake. That's your stable point. So what happens in this area of the ski's arc is that it wants to help you. That force wants to help you go in towards the wake. Let's continue with that. Now, as you get in towards the wake and get to the middle of the boat wake, let's stop it. The twisting force hits you completely. It's no longer helping you get back into the wakes. Now it's preventing you from trying to go out. And what it wants to do to you is take your body and turn it back towards the front to face the boat. It's like a giant hand comes on your shoulder, grabs you to start turning you back. And you have to resist that hand that comes on you. And the way you resist it is by keeping your body tight and tensing these muscles up here and actually doing more work with the half of your body that's away from the boat than with the other half. And you not only do it at the middle of the boat wake, but you continue fighting that force beyond the boat wakes, into your edge change, and then beyond your edge change into the pre-turn, all the way until the ski hits the apex of the turning arc. The force does get less the wider you go, but it's still very strong and you must resist it. The edge change in the slalom sequence is the shortest of all the things that we do, but it can be one of the most important, and it certainly is a big factor towards improving your slalom performance. It's quick, precise, but important. Can you explain it to us, Bob?
Well, the edge change takes place, Mike, after the wakes. The key is to hold that edge through the wakes, try to continue that turn. Now your transition is to start the arc going the other way, and that's when you start your edge change.
Okay, well, I found with most beginning skiers, to get them on a good slalom rhythm, you should change your edge somewhere beyond the second boat wake, about a ski length to 2 ski lengths past the second boat wake. So the ski has to be completely off the second boat wake, cutting on an edge before you start the edge change. Then the physical edge change, Bob, how do you want to tell somebody to do that?
You can relate to snow skiing a little bit. In snow skiing they call unweighting to make a turn. In our version in water skiing of unweighting basically is flexing the knees, or again I'm saying bending the knees and trying to kind of lighten lighten the load on the ski, kind of take the weight off of it a little bit, because this is one of the points where you're going to be going very fast. And so you need that, since you're changing from one edge to the other, it needs to be smooth, and you don't want a lot of weight driving on that ski, because a lot of things can happen. So you keep real light on the ski.
Okay, as you lighten the load on the ski and you edge change, what really takes place is not your body leaning from one side to the other, even though that occurs, but the lean comes when your ski swings out underneath your body. And that's really the one part of the edge change which is the most difficult thing for you to understand, is that you're taking your bottom body, your ski and your bottom body, and swinging it underneath. In this case, if you're going to the left, it would be your left shoulder to get that ski started out going to the side. And then the centrifugal force of the speed that you've generated will actually help to take that ski on an arc.
When you're leaning away from the boat, like I said, if you're going right to left, you're keying everything off your left shoulder, because that's the shoulder you're leaning against. And so you want everything really to go out from that point. You don't want to take your upper body and lean it towards the boat, because what that's going to do is create things like slack and those other kind of problems. So by keeping your shoulders leaning away from the boat and then swinging everything out from there, it keeps a tight rope and it makes a nice smooth transition into that other arc.
Yeah, so you got to realize that in order to learn a proper edge change, you need to learn it at a speed you can control, because you don't want to take a lot of lean initially. The other thing is, the key to a good edge change is to be in a perfect position, or as best a position as you can be in through the wake, so that you can start your edge change from the right position. Now let's watch this carefully and look for the body position going through the wakes. Lean to the side, knees ahead, and then a couple of ski lengths beyond the second boat wake, boom, the ski swings out to the other side, and you notice the body position hasn't changed. The back stayed straight, and knees, if anything, have gotten a little more bent in them, and they're a little softer, and the ski just makes the arc into the other direction. It has to be a very strong, very physical type of action, that edge change. It's the one area of slalom skiing that is not smooth, and it just doesn't happen because you are smooth. You actually physically have to force the edge change and put as much effort into it as you can. The turn takes place as soon as the edge change is completed. The first part of the turn actually carries your ski on edge and brings it out to the apex point, and then it starts to head it back towards the wake. Bob, I want you to describe your body position and what it feels like to make a good water ski slalom turn.
The key there again, Mike, is to be smooth. Don't try to force the ski. The ski is designed to make a nice natural arc. As long as you keep that body position, stay over the center of the ski, as you roll it out like you talked about, it'll come out and then back in nice and natural, nice and smooth. The thing not to do is to try to force it around. People get partway through the turn and then they try to really force the back of it around. It wants to resist that. It wants to straighten back out. So let the ski do its work.
I've also run into people that try to do other things to force their ski. In other words, they'll actually try to, another way to force it is by rotating their body. They'll actually try to twist their body, because as we talked about, a turn is where the ski carves, and it carves around the tip of your down shoulder. So that as soon as you twist your body to try to increase your turn, you've moved the fulcrum point of the turn. Another thing that people try to do is pull in the rope.
Right. There again, they're trying to force that thing, especially in a slalom course situation. They see a buoy there and they think, oh, I've got to turn now. So they want to do everything they do to get that ski to go when they want it to. The ski's going to go naturally. You got to let it take its natural course and maintain that proper body position over the top of the ski.
Sounds like a good turn has a lot to do with the setup and just letting it ride and not forcing it. As soon as the edge change is initiated, the turn begins. The first part of the turn actually begins to get your ski wider and opens up the hinge, which is your arm and the body. As your ski goes out wider, that hinge begins to open up more and you become an extension of the rope.
In the pre-turn, the centrifugal force is trying to pull you out at that point, so you're putting that ski back against that force. And that's the first part of the turn where you actually haven't made much of a turn you're really just changing directions at that point.
Okay, then we hit the apex of the turn, and then the next part of the turn begins. That's when you start heading back to the boat wake. And as we talked about the hinge opening up on the pre-turn part of the turn, the hinge begins to close again as you start to head back towards the boat wake. Can you describe what that's like, Bob?
What's happening there, this is where you're getting the biggest part of your turn. In other words, the pre-turn, you don't make a whole lot of actual turn, but you're setting yourself up for the turn. This is where you're really doing the most actual turning. And what's happening is the ski is coming back around and catching back up with your body. Because what happens in the pre-turn is your body tends to get ahead of the ski because it's leaning towards the boat. And the ski in the turn is actually catching back up with you.
Okay, so the ski starts to come around with the body and starts to close the hinge. Also, at this part of the turn, you're actually beginning to accelerate back towards the boat wake. The initial part of the acceleration towards the boat wake is the actual ski catching up to your body. Is that correct?
Yeah, and once it does catch up and you're actually into the final phase of your turn, which is nothing more than acceleration, but it still is part of the turn, and the key there is to have that ski come around nice and smooth so that you can maintain that position, because once it comes all the way around, that's when you're really going to feel the force of the boat trying to pull you out of that turn.
So the latter part of the turn, which we also call the cut or the pull, is when the forces start acting on the skier that's built that angle, and you start going through the wakes, and everything begins to happen to you. And that's still part of the turn because your ski is still building angle, but for simplicity's sake, a lot of times we call it the pull.
Right, because you're really not changing any body position at that point, so you don't feel like you're turning. You think you're just kind of holding on, but the ski, like you say, you're trying to turn it. It's just that the boat's not letting you.
Okay, you're still leaning towards your down shoulder, your ski is still trying to build angle, and the pull increases on you, so we call that the cut. But it's all part of the turn. The pre-turn, the turn, and the cut are all a part of the turn, but in different stages. A lot of people like to let go of one hand and make those one-handed turns that you see in the pictures in the magazines and such. It's important to learn to first ski with two hands in the handle, isn't it, Bob?
Yeah, it's correct. I mean, there's a reason for letting go, obviously, and that is for the extension in your pre-turn. It's not just to stick the arm out and make yourself look good.
So we need to make sure that you can make the edge change with two hands in the handle and start your initial part of the pre-turn with two hands in the handle. And then when should you let go?
Well, what will happen is as you make your edge change and the ski starts to roll out and your lower body is rolling out, the handle will get pulled across your body. As it gets pulled across towards the boat, your outside hand will eventually get, if you have it relaxed, will actually get pulled off the handle, and that's the time to extend with the inside arm.
So we don't let go with the handle in close to our body. The first thing that starts to happen is the ski moves out, our body starts skiing away from the handle, and the other hand just slips off the handle.
That's correct. Mike will actually pull that outside handle off as the ski goes out and the tension gets tight on the rope again.
Okay, so there is no actual jerk in the line. We don't create slack when we let go of the handle properly. Plus, we're strong enough because we've done the majority of our edge change with two hands in the handle. After the edge change is when the turn begins. This part of the turn we often refer to as the pre-turn because the ski is on its turning edge. You've changed directions, or rather changed lean, and now the ski is on its turning edge, but you're still going away from the wake. Let's continue that. You can see the knees stay forward, the upper body stays straight, and then the ski, just from the centrifugal force, begins to arc out. As the ski arcs out, what happens to it? It reaches its apex point, the point where the pre-turn stops, and then starts coming around to the other side. Just like magic. A lot of people think of the turn as a time when you force the ski, or when you rotate your body, or when you pull the handle into you. But that's not it. The correct turn is when the ski just changes its edge off the edge change and makes its own natural arc. Here we can see, yet from another angle, a little bit farther ahead of the skier, but still towards the side, what the slalom cut looks like. Again, the lean towards the down shoulder, in this case, the left shoulder, and you notice how simple it is, not a lot of lean. You'll be surprised how little lean you need to make a lot of speed through the wakes. Don't try to increase your lean and think that makes you a better skier. Try to do the technique right. You can see the edge change, and you see the ski begin to arc out and get wider on the arc. It hits the apex point and starts to head back into the wakes. You can see in that picture that I'm not doing anything. I'm just letting the ski arc, maintaining my body position. Nice through the wakes, and then bend the knees a little bit more and make that edge change by swinging that bottom body out to the side to get that ski arcing out wide. And it comes around again all by itself. You set up for the turn properly, the ski will come around all by itself. So the two turns theory, which are separated by an edge change, is very important for you to understand, to be smooth and to improve with, because at first you'll be making small S's close to the wake, and then you'll be making wider ones that'll eventually get you around the buoy. Along with that two-turn theory, you need to also understand about rhythm and timing. It's very important to have that in your mind. In other words, the rhythm and timing means that you end up skiing the same width on both sides of the boat wake, as well as skiing with the same degree of lean on both sides. And that's not so easy to do, is it, Bob?
No, it's not. Everybody, unfortunately, has what we call a good side, bad side, or strong side, weak side. Me being right foot forward, the natural tendency is to be able to turn harder to the right and lean harder to the right. And there again, getting in, if you know, the goal here is we're going to get through the slalom course. And unfortunately, the buoys are the same on both sides. So you have to have the same pulls on both sides and hopefully the same turns, because you want to be even on both sides. So you got to put the same amount of emphasis on both turns and both leans.
A lot of times what happens is, because the good side turn, if you're right foot forward, which would be the turn to the right, or if you're left foot forward, it would be your turn to the left, the skier has a tendency to give it more turn on that side. And what they need to do is actually hold back on the good side to make it with the same amount of lean and the same type of turn as on their bad side, and then bring their bad side turn up to where the good side is, and let them improve together. Once you're off kilter and your rhythm and timing is off, it's very difficult to improve.
Yeah, too many people depend on their good side turn to do all the work for them. It's harder to ski the offside turn, but it's not that it's really any harder, it's just maybe more technical. You can get away with things on your good side turn. You can be back and kind of push the ski around and get away with things that you shouldn't be doing, but you can do it. On the offside, you can't get away with that. It's very important to let that ski make its turn, and that's where that weight needs to be up over the center of the ski, and you need to do all those things. Keep that, leaned into the shoulder, do your nice roll in the pre-turn, get the ski on edge so it'll make a nice arc.
Okay, so rhythm and timing, one of the important things to work on in slalom skiing. With my students, a lot of times I like to take the initiative and give them signals on when to lean to one side and when to lean to the other side, so they don't have to think about it at first. Once you begin to do it, though, you kind of get a feel of what's required, and it's not as difficult anymore.
Okay, when you're shadowing the buoys, eventually you'll get to the point where you'll start going around them. And the way to start that, probably, since you've got a strong pull off your good side turn, is to actually go around the buoys on your weak side first, and then shadow your good side turns, because you're going to get better angle off that good side, which is going to set you up for a nice early round turn on your weak side turns. And eventually you'll get out wider and wider, so you'll go around both sides.
So shadowing the buoys is a very good practice for learning proper rhythm and timing required to make the slalom course. Training for the slalom course can be varied depending on the site you ski at and on the individual. However, you need to spend a lot of time working on the slalom course outside of the slalom course. What happens to you when you get to the slalom course is the buoys usually overwhelm you. And I know you've had a lot of experience. When you were younger, you used to ski in an area where it allowed you to do a lot of open skiing.
Right. Well, it happened to work out for my benefit. It just happened that we had to go by boat out to the slalom course, and it was like a 5-6 mile ride. So I used to always, being young and full of energy and all that, I used to jump on my ski and ski out to the slalom course. And I think it helped me work on my timing. And when you don't have to worry about the buoys like you're talking about, Mike, you can think about your technique and what you need to work on. The first thing that happens when you get in a course is your mind goes to one thing, and it's, boy, I got to get around that red buoy. And you kind of throw everything out the window, and that becomes you key in on that too much maybe. So you need to mix it up. You need to mix up some course skiing with some outside course skiing. Now, one thing I think works good for the beginner who's working on his lean, we've been talking about lean now, is to put the skier on a rope, a fairly short rope, put it on 22 or 28 off loop, and have him just ski out to the side and hang out there and slowly apply more and more lean while he's going straight ahead but out the side of the boat. Because what this does, it takes that fear factor away of going through the wakes. He doesn't have to think about the wakes, he can just concentrate on holding that lean. And he should be able to, with a lot of practice, just hang out there and lean over farther and farther and farther until that outside shoulder, that down shoulder, is just barely off the water, and maintain that position. You can concentrate on it. You can, think about keeping the shoulders up and kind of play with it and adjust it until he gets in a comfortable position out there.
That's good. Another method that I've used is to take somebody that has problems crossing the wake and actually shorten the line to either 22 or 28 off, still at a slow boat speed, and have them ski quite close to the wake. What happens is that the wake's a little bit narrower and a little smaller there usually, and it gets the person over the wake quite a bit more easily. You can do that too with boats that have pretty wide beams and the wakes are spread pretty wide. When you bring the wakes closer together, it's actually easier for a person to cross the wakes. The water ski slalom course. Very difficult to negotiate all 6 buoys your first time out, but there's some good things about the course too, and that's that all the buoys are placed symmetrically.
Right, and it's a good standard to judge yourself by, because it's always the same and it makes you ski even. It's going to teach you or help teach you to ski even on both sides.
Okay, the important thing to remember is it's got 6 turn buoys, it's got 2 skier gates at either end, and it has boat guides to keep the boat in the center of the course going down through it. The basic width of the course is about as long as your ski rope. So you figure that half the length of the ski rope is the width of the course. To initially start the slalom course, it is not important to make the entrance gates. It is better, in fact, to miss them by about 10 or 15 feet on the easy side. To do that, swing out about 3 to 6 feet wider than the turn buoys and start your turn for buoy 1 about 10 or 15 feet before the nose of the boat gets to the entrance gates. That'll give you plenty of time to get set up for the first buoy and hopefully get into a good slalom course rhythm. Okay, Bob, we've gotten through the stage to cutting to buoy 1. What should we be doing now?
Okay, now we got to pick a proper line through the course. Now, a proper line would be to get wide of number 1 and be early at number 1. In other words, you don't want to ski just buoy to buoy. You don't just go around this buoy and then aim straight at the other one. The whole idea here is to stay ahead of the game. To do that, we have to start our turn before we get there and wide of the buoy. So when we complete the turn, we're cutting the buoy really close on the back side of it. The more down course we go, the more disadvantage we're at. We want to try to stay ahead of the game, not get behind. By getting behind, it means we're getting down course, because it keeps adding up. If you get a little late here, the next buoy you're going to be even later. So you got to kind of try to plan ahead, start your turns before you get to the buoys and wide of the buoys.
Okay, let's not confuse turning wide of the buoys. You want your turn to get wide of the buoys, but actually when you start your edge change and your pre-turn starts, you're still narrow of the buoys. Now, a lot of people that ski open and first time they get to the slalom course get confused with that. They think that when they change their edge that their ski is not going to arc out any wider, so it won't go around the buoys. So as a consequence, they wait too long to get on their turning edge. You've got to realize that sideways momentum you have at the start of your edge change is going to carry your ski wide of the buoy. So you're actually narrower of the buoy when you start on your turning edge, and then the momentum of your ski is going to get you around that buoy.
That's right. I think one of the big mistakes people make is they pull almost all the way to the buoy, because they say, oh, I got to get wide of it. So they pull almost all the way out there, and by the time they do get edge change and turn, they're way past the buoy down course. And it's a timing thing. It's going to take a while. The rhythm comes in. And the key is when you're first starting the course, you get around 1 and you undershoot 2, that's okay. Just keep going back. Make 6 turns. get used to making all 6 turns, and if you don't get around them, that's not the key here. What we want to do is get used to that timing, figure out where these buoys are.
Another thing that's good, if you can force yourself to make your edge changes within a couple of ski lengths off the second boat wake. That way you won't be tempted to hold your cut all the way out to the buoy. Even if you don't go around the buoys, you'll learn. You can adjust next time. You can say, well, I didn't have enough speed at the start of my edge change, or my edge change itself was weak. I got rotated back to the boat and my ski didn't make a wide arc. So by forcing yourself to make that edge change the same place each time, which is relatively close to the second wake, you'll actually be learning to better your technique.
Right, and your timing. You got reference points. You use the wakes as a reference point. You know that you're going to hold that lean through both wakes, then make your edge change somewhere in that 5 to 10 foot area after the wakes. Another reference point you have obviously is the buoy. You know coming in the buoy when to start that second phase of the turn, when to really get the ski to come around.
And that's another problem that the new course skier usually experiences. And they have a tendency to be looking at the next buoy as they're finishing the turn and going through the wake on the previous cut. What you need to do is keep your mind away from the next buoy, concentrate on where you are relative to the boat wake, make your edge change, and then go ahead and let the buoy come in your picture.
Right. Remember, you're trying to finish that turn as you're going through the wakes, approaching the wakes. So if you're concentrating on the next buoy, that's probably where you're going to ski to, but that's not what you want to ski to. You want to ski basically straight across the wake. Ideally, that's where you want to be. And the only way you can get over there is to keep that turn, keep leaning into that down shoulder and resisting that turning force that's trying to open you up.
And when you do see the buoy, don't necessarily stare at it. Let it come in your vision and let it go through your vision. By staring at a buoy and actually focusing closer to it as you get closer, it makes the buoy feel like it's going by you too fast. As you have a much better feel of your speed if you see the buoy come through your vision, and it also keeps your mind more focused on what you're doing.
Yeah, you have a better perspective because you got an open view of everything. Seeing more gives you a better idea of where you're at in relationship to everything.
So don't get flustered by the buoys. Try to, in essence, keep the same style and technique that you learned while skiing open while you're running the slalom course. A lot easier said than done. All right, let's watch Bob LaPoint go through the course at 30 miles an hour. Notice he made his lean through the wakes and went right through the gates. Now he's let the ski edge change, and the pre-turn has swung his ski nice and wide before the first buoy. He's hanging out there and just keeping his arms straight, his body straight, his knees soft and bent, and letting the ski arc around the turn. See how nice the ski's arcing? He's just coming right around with the ski, and as he comes around, the ski builds more angle. He's able to hold that position against the boat. But he's still leaned toward his down shoulder. He's got enough speed to make his edge change just off the second wake. He's arcing out now. Doesn't need a lot of lean here. As long as his ski is arcing good before the buoy, you don't need a lot of lean right at that spot. He's past the apex point before he got to the buoy, continues in to the next wake, very good position, straight upper body, straight arms, relaxed legs, relaxed forearms. He makes that strong edge change and just lets the ski arc around again in the next buoy. Slalom is a repetition. You do it over and over and over again. The idea is to start that first turn really smooth and in the same type of form you want to do the remainder of the turns, and then continue it 6 more times. I feel it's important for the beginning slalom course skier to initially run the course with both hands on the handle. This beginning skier will have a tendency otherwise to let go of their one hand too soon and actually stick one hand out to allow themselves that extra width to go around the buoys. It's much better to keep 2 hands on the handle and to let your edge change cause your body to lean over, which will actually give you a reach or an extension on the rope.
Yeah, it's the slower speeds especially, Mike, because it's not going to take much extension to get out around the buoys at the slower speeds, and that's what we're really talking about. When you reach the hand out, you're really extending away from the boat. And with 2 hands on the handle. It's much safer because you don't have to have that big extension like you do, let's say, at a short line, high speed turn like you would see somebody in a slalom course in a tournament. That's going to be, down the road. For right now, let's work on the timing and just being smooth, and the reach will come as you need it.
Here we compared Jan's open slalom style, that is not through the slalom course, to a style that I have set up. Watch his rhythm compared to mine. You can see that Jan has tried to take a lot of lean through the wake. He could have been a lot better off with less lean because he's lost his position as he crossed the wake. He got unrotated as he crossed the wake. Now, because of that, you can see him holding his edge quite wide. He should have changed his edge closer to the second wake, so he would have stayed in a better slalom rhythm. He is maintaining a good upper body position, but because the way he's set up for the turn, he has pushed his ski out ahead of him, and he's forced it to turn back by pushing on the back end of the ski. You notice the handle that's up too. The rope should be down and lean to the side. He does catch his position pretty well here though. You can see he's taking more lean than I am coming into the wake, but by the time he gets to the wake, he's rotated out of his lean. The twisting force has got him. He would be better off having taken less lean coming into the wake and maintaining that same lean going through the wakes. I'll make my edge change a few ski lengths beyond the second boat wake. Jan will go out too far. He needs to bring it in closer. He has the potential to ski the exact same way I'm skiing, but with that type of rhythm and trying to take too much lean, trying to bite off more than he can chew, it is very difficult for him to attain the proper form. You can see that the ski is pushed out in front of him. He's got a lot of slack in the line. He's pulled the line up to pull the slack out. Not much you can do if you set up for the turn wrong. He's in a little bit better position. You can see his legs are really absorbing the wake. They should be tight enough so they don't bend up crossing the wake. Again, his edge change should be made closer to the wake, and his ski should stay under him more. Both knees should be bent forward. The front leg is a little too straight. That's the classic rope overhead turn. You can see that he's got good body strength and good body position, but his ski is ahead of him too far, and it's hard for things to work when the technique is not correct. He's had a real bad rotation that time. The boat has twisted his body towards the front because he was leaned toward the back so far, and he has a hard time getting back in position. There's not much you can do. You get pulled out of position and you lose your balance, all you can do is hope to stay on your ski. He tries to continue going on, gets on the back of his ski, and makes a pretty fall. Here's an interesting comparison. The same person, Tara, on the same lesson. On the left, she is doing her first pass in the lesson. On the right, she's been coached for a couple of times. She's been dropped in the water and talked to. On the left, she had a tendency to approach the wake and sit down and get off her edge. You can see how low she gets. On the right, she now keeps her lean through the wakes. She also keeps her arms more relaxed and straighter on the right, and she's in more of a slalom course rhythm. That is, she's changing her edge a couple of ski lengths beyond the second boat wake and allowing her ski to arc back towards the other side. On the left, she cuts out quite far beyond the wakes. As a consequence, she's very scared of the wakes. She sits down through the wakes because she ends up getting too much speed in that amount of cutting distance that she has. To the right, she's got a nice slalom course rhythm set up, and now she's learning the proper technique. It's not dangerous, much less chance of falling. and a lot more fun. We'll now compare 9-year-old Brett with that of Bob LaPoint, both of them running the slalom course. You notice how Bob changed his edge already, and Brett is still on his cutting edge, just barely changing edges before the buoy. He's quite late on the buoy, but he manages to make up by getting pretty good angle off the buoy, enough to make it to the other side and catch up a little ground he lost. But he's got a little slack line on the buoys. He's bouncing a lot over the wake, which is partly attributable to his size, and he's cutting a long way out to the buoys. He makes a quicker turn than Bob rather than a slower, more continuous turn. You notice Bob's already in his turn and Brett starts it much later. He doesn't have quite the lean that Bob does, which is one reason why he's not making it to the other side as quick. And he's getting turned open towards the boat a little bit, especially going towards his left. But with a lot of work, you never know. He may be the next Bob LaPoint. Now Lonnie is going to compare her slalom form with Bob LaPoint's. They're both riding 32 miles an hour, 15 feet off the rope. Both of them made a very nice start into the gates. You can see Lonnie was a little late for the entrance gates, and she's also given in to the wake with her upper body by bending it to waist. As a consequence, she's a little bit behind the buoy. She's a few yards back of the buoy. And again, going to her left, she's got an open body position. Her left shoulder was not kept rigid enough to keep from fighting the boat's rotational pull. As she's going into buoy 3, again, she's got a forward body position. She's having to hold her cut a long way to get caught up to the buoy, and you can see that she's lost a lot of ground now. She must be about 5 or 6 yards behind on the buoy. She's trying to make up by getting a strong turn, but you can see that her body rotation was not strong enough for her to maintain her angle. As a consequence, she's gone inside the 4th buoy, whereas our buddy Bob just cruises it like it's nothing. Now compare Jenny to myself doing open slalom or free skiing. You can see she has pretty good upper body position. Her arms are relaxed. She could get her chest out a little bit more to get a little more leverage that way. Remember, you want to take the pull with that upper body. She's making a nice edge change. A little bit pushy on the ski. As a consequence, it came off the edge and it's got to go back around again. And now she got twisted out of her lean by the rotational force of the boat. She's going to have to get back into that slalom rhythm again, which she seems to be doing now. And going quite well to her right. She's making an edge change a couple of ski lengths beyond the 2nd boat wake. The skis come around nicely. She's sitting a little bit on the wake. She's afraid to maintain her sideways lean through the wakes, and she's going to have to work on that, but otherwise it was pretty good.
Yeah, we keep harping on the basics, but that's what it comes down to, Mike, is getting a solid foundation to build your slalom skiing style from.
It's real easy to get impatient, and you see somebody else ski and you say, well, I'm just going to do what they're doing. Looks like they're getting a lot of angle, so I'm going to push my ski in angle. Looks like they're getting a rope in on a turn, so I'm going to pull my rope in. But it's not really that. You've seen from our explanations that there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
That's right, and you don't want to skip any of the steps.
The key to static body position is a good grip on the handle, arms relaxed and straight, so you can withstand the pull with strong shoulder muscles while you keep your shoulder blades pinched together. Your chest needs to remain out, your upper body has to have good posture, knees bent forward and relaxed, weight going equally to both feet. The keys to good consistent edging is to make sure that you lean towards the tip of your down shoulder while letting your body maintain its good posture, allowing the ski to build its angle from the lean and not from pushing on the back of it or trying to force it.
remember to lean against that down shoulder through the wakes. Also, keep the ski on the edge through both wakes, prevent it from flying in the air. Maintain your resistance against that force that's trying to pull you open towards the boat, and also at the same time keep that ski in a flat attitude as much as possible.
Remember that you can never put too much effort into making a good edge change. You need to swing the whole body underneath the shoulder that is down and away at the start of the edge change. Be sure to soften your legs up while you edge change and keep 2 hands on the handle throughout the whole motion.
The keys to a smooth turn are first to let the ski make a full pre-turn to obtain maximum width. Keep good body position with weight centered over the ski, and let the ski finish its turn naturally. Don't try to force it, and establish good angle at the end of the turn.
The key to good rhythm and timing is to start off with the same lean in both directions. Don't try to take more lean off your good side than you can handle from your bad side. Also, hold the cuts to the edge change points the same distance beyond the wake every time. It is very important to ski smoothly and consistently so you can think about learning new ideas.
When training, remember repetition is the key to improvement. Make sure you learn each new step thoroughly before you go on to the next. And also mix up your routines from session to session. If you get caught doing the same thing over and over the wrong way, it's just going to set you back even more. So mix it up a little bit, but feel confident with each step before you go on to the next one.
To run the slalom course, remember, make sure that your natural rhythm while skiing open will take you wide enough to get to the buoys. Once in the buoys, try to maintain that natural rhythm and let the buoys take care of themselves. Maintain an early line, and if you miss a buoy, just go ahead and go to the next one. But skiing properly and skiing correctly is what you want. The buoys will take care of themselves. In our next slalom tape, we're going to take you beyond these speeds and get you into much shorter line skiing and work on the remaining 30-40% to try to get it right.
And that next 30-40% is the tough part, but you've got a strong base now. You've got all the basic techniques down. You need to practice those, work on those things one at a time until you get them down all right, so that you transition into the next tape will be that much easier.
A unique idea that we've come up with here at Double Vision is a slalom video ski school. That is where you can take a slalom video of yourself from the boat and send it into us. What we will do with our technology here is reproduce that on a tape where you can run split screen with Bob LaPoint, as well as get my comments of your skiing style and whatever you need to work on the tape as well.
If you'd like to join our video ski school and have your technique analyzed next to mine, fill out the enclosed video ski school admission form or call 1-800-748-6511 for more information. Videotape your own skiing and send us a VHS tape. The tape you get back will look just like this, except it will be you skiing next to me, and Mike will analyze your skiing. Be one of the first to take advantage of this innovative method of improving your slalom technique.